let's just start with this. There are a number of books that have crashed onto the scene with the neo-atheist, the new atheist. It's a radical, evangelistic atheist. Mm-hmm. They're not just willing to sit back and say there's no God. They feel like it's their duty to help you understand there is no God. Richard Dawkins, most famous among them, wrote the book, The God Delusion. Yes. And so let's just start this morning with a response to that book, The God Delusion, and arguments for the intellectual defensibility of belief in the character, nature, and existence of God.
Okay, very good. And let me begin just by saying how delighted I am to have the opportunity, Todd, to be with folks here at Watermark this morning. I'm in town, as you said, for purposes of recording podcasts for Reasonable Faith, but being here this weekend gives me the opportunity to share this Sunday morning with you, and so I'm grateful for that.
We are humbled to hear.
When I read The God Delusion, I was very interested in the early chapters on the existence of God because I wanted to see how Dawkins would respond to the principal arguments for God's existence that I know are defended by many eminent philosophers today. And I must say, I was shocked and rather disappointed by the superficiality of his critique and analysis. The fact is that he didn't deal with many of the strongest arguments for God's existence, and those that he did deal with, he dealt with in a very superficial manner. And I think it's important to understand why this is. Professor Dawkins is a professional biologist. He's an expert in his area of specialization, but he's not a philosopher. And so when he speaks to philosophical concerns like arguments for God's existence, his opinion have no more value than the opinion of an untutored layman. He is a layman when it comes to these, and it shows in the kind of criticisms he offers.
Okay, and in a recent lecture at Imperial College London, I think you cited 7 pieces of rational evidence to lead to the conclusion that Christian God exists.
Yes.
Why do you think that to many people who are learned in the subject, other people such as Christopher Hitchens, such as Sam Harris, who know a lot about the subject, why do you think that they don't accept these as rational conclusions?
Well, now, with respect to the 2 examples you named, with all due respect, I don't think they do know a lot about the subject. Okay. I have debated both of these gentlemen in public forums at universities, and Christopher Hitchens' lack of familiarity with the issues is just astonishing. Yeah. And similarly with Sam Harris, he was just impotent even to defend his view against criticism. I think that so often these folks are so deeply embedded in a kind of secular worldview and interact so rarely with people from another perspective that they're utterly unaware of the literature. Yeah. They don't read people like me. Yeah. They don't participate in conferences with people like me. They don't invite people like me to share the platform with them as I do when I invite them. And so there really is a tremendous ignorance, I find. Many of these folks, I think, rejected the Christian faith as young people, 11 or 12 years of age, and they've never studied it again since.
I would like to come back to an earlier point, if I may, too, and that is the notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth. I think this is just completely false. The spate of new books published by the new atheists like Harris and Hitchens and Dawkins and so forth are not sophisticated books intellectually. These are, for the most part, angry, bitter diatribes against religion.
And in that regard, do you have a sense of where this might be going? We have seen some changes or some voices within atheism in recent years saying, look, we're not for this kind of vitriol. We want to have a more reasonable discussion.
That's right. I think that it's important to understand that the new atheism is a pop cultural phenomenon. It does not represent the direction in which the academy, the intellectuals are moving, which I think is quite the opposite direction. And so as a fashionable pop cultural phenomenon, I think it's soon going to fade from significance, and we're already seeing some erosion. Richard Dawkins has frankly become an object of ridicule and even embarrassment among his fellow atheists. So I think that this movement has already seen its high peak and will continue to decline.